Okay. So, as you know, it's Pride season in Buffalo and throughout the country. Some southern states pushed their Pride recognition back to early fall to reduce the issues of heat exhaustion and the very real threat of heat stroke. Now, that might seem like a small difference, June or September, depending on the climate, but it was not an easy decision, at least for one community in the southern states, to move from June to September. Because, June is Pride Month. September is back to school sales, right? So Les and I were living in South Carolina when the Pride festivities, in Spartanburg at least, were moved to September. And I can tell you, September was hot enough. We'd have been low country boiled dinners in June. So what does that have to do with today's service? Well, we're going to notice and celebrate differences. Sometimes differences are created by decisions that we make that protect those we love, like deciding that June in South Carolina is a challenging time to be out walking in a parade. Quite often those differences and decisions are fraught as we battle the "but we've always done it this way" demon. Yes, I said it, demon. That phrase, if you ever want to watch Reverend Michelle melt down like the Wicked Witch getting the water pushed on her, the Wizard of Oz, just use that. Don't use that phrase. Please don't use that phrase. Nothing can stop a productive idea, a productive conversation, something spectacularly and sparkly new, like, well, we've always done it that way, or its twin, we tried that once, it didn't work. If you want to be able to squash difference, those are two very, very disheartening phrases. So today we are celebrating differences. So we're going to play a tiny little game. I invite you to participate. It requires raising a hand. If that is difficult for you, then don't raise your hand. You can nod or shake your head. So, raise your hand if your religion or your thoughts about God, those thoughts today, are different than they were 10 years ago. Raise your hand if that's true for you. Very nice. Raise your hand if you have changed your mind at least once in the last 2 weeks about anything, not necessarily your religion, just like change your mind. I'm going to wear blue. No, I don't want to wear the blue. Thank you. Very nice. Sometimes these questions are like really baseline. Raise your hand if you were born before 1960. Okay, please look around, see who's in the room. Very nice. You can put your hands down. Please raise your hand if you were born between 1960 and 1980. Okay, hope you're looking around. Raise your hand if you were born in between 1980 and 2000. Look around. Okay, so even the 2000s, these weren't necessarily born in the 21st century. I know that's disturbing, and the math around how they decide these things is really past me. But raise your hand. You might not be in the room anymore, but raise your hand if you were born in the 21st century. Woohoo, thank you. I'll leave the keys for you. It's all up to you now. Sometimes we treat our younger people like that. It's like, phew, someone to do all the heavy lifting. Bye. We're not going to do that. Raise your hand if you know that party line means more than political alignment. Yeah, for those of you who are completely mystified, so back in the olden days, there would be like one, I don't even know how it worked because I was just a kid, but you didn't have your own personal phone line in your house. It was a party line which meant you could sometimes hear some pretty interesting conversations when you picked up the phone to make a call and someone was already talking to somebody else. And then you could either stay on, and that's naughty, or you had to put it down really softly so that the click of the receiver didn't stop their conversation. But yeah, you had to wait your turn until you could make a phone call. What madness. How many of you have cell phones either with you or that you own? Yeah, that's why, because there were party lines once, and that's why we have cell phones. I just made that up. So there are differences in the room, right? There are differences, and I won't ask you to raise your hand on these until I change my mind and do, because pretty soon you're going to do some talking. I decided that before my voice decided to be a little wobbly, so put on your hard hats. But some of the differences, I mean, clearly there are differences that are sort of politically driven. They're not necessarily empathetically driven, and we can leave some of those to the side. There are differences like those who are animal guardians and those who have animal-free homes. And both groups usually have some pretty passionate reasons about why they belong to one or the other group. Your music tastes might be wildly different. Yeah, there are stations I just can't do on the radio. So I have a story that I tell myself. In airports, I notice that all the music is from like the mid-'70s to the end of the '80s. And then I think, oh, it's because that's the coolest music. And then I wonder, are they like playing to the crowd, like the people that are here are my age, and they're playing to the crowd? But then I think back, were they playing the music of my parents' generation when my parents were getting on airplanes? I don't think so. So I think it's just because it's the best music. See, yeah. Oh, you can start a fight this way. This is awesome. Another way to start a fight is between those who have a fully plant-based diet and those that might be omnivores. You want to see some serious potluck fighting? Those are some differences that we need to celebrate because they can really divide friends. Spenders versus savers. I don't even know what that sentence means. So probably the savers among you do know the difference. Okay. So maybe you're feeling surprised at some of the answers looking around the room. Who's here? I thought everyone was just like me, but they were not. And that might be a source of alarm. It could be a source of deep comfort. Today we have gathered to celebrate difference. So we celebrate one of the things that we as a congregation try to live into all year round is celebrating diversity, and not just celebrating folks' diversity, but lifting it up and advocating and being a welcoming place for all kinds of diversity. Sometimes our differences are in comparison to others, and that's a very human trait, right? Like, oh, I have to know if you're like me or not like me, and that goes back, that's like in our bones. But we can work on that, right? Because what kept us safe from, say, saber-toothed tigers, did humans live with saber-toothed tigers? I'm really bad at that. Let's just agree that they did. Okay, good. So I'm going to ask you some questions because I know that many of you, all of you, have done reflective work on yourselves, on understanding who you are, understanding who others are, socially, familially, religiously, or spiritually. So, I have a microphone. I'm a festival of microphones right And just in case you don't play nice, I have Amy on hand with questions that we didn't get to on the question box day. So one way or the other, and I won't necessarily be the one answering them. So this is going to be more fun for me than I ever get to have. So I'm assuming that your theology has changed. Even if you were raised in a UU context, Unitarian Universalism has changed. So I hope that some of your theology has changed. But if you came from other places or from no place, meaning like not a organized religion, how has your theology, your understanding of that which is of ultimate importance, okay? So let's put that in a context, that which is of ultimate importance. Not necessarily, well, it can include you, but it's not exclusive to you. That which is of ultimate importance to me, that which is of ultimate importance. I had to change my voice there. How has that, I'm assuming that it has changed for you. And I have the microphone, and I will come to you. Should I have started with an easier one? Okay. I know, that I'm registering surprise on my face. I'm glad, Susan.
I was raised to believe that there was God. And I've come to believe that God seems to be a figment of man's need or fear or need for someone to talk to or be with when they're afraid or they're feeling helpless. So, but I'm in the middle of that.
Hold that closer to your mic.
I'm in the middle of that right now. I believe that there is a higher spirit in the world. And so I'm journeying toward that place.
Thank you. So, okay. See, you opened the door. Oh, I could stay back here where the kids get to play. This is so cool. Okay. Taylor.
So, like Sue, raised to believe that God is a higher being, and now there's a higher power, but not necessarily one person. And I think a biggest change for me is that being or that spirit that connects us does not require perfection or a set of rules that have to be subscribed to. It is just asking yourself in the moment, what is the best thing that I can do for the community and myself, and find that balance.
Thank you. I'm going to do a quick raising of hands. And I will get you next, Pat. It's because this is on. I don't know why. How many of you would say that you have the perfectionism gene? Yeah, and perfectionism, you know, it feels like it should be a good thing, but it can be really complicated. And when we think that God is demanding perfection of us, ooh, that's rough.
I was brought up a Catholic, and I went to 15 years of a Catholic school, and it wasn't until I got married that I knew Protestants. And I came here through my ex-husband, and I asked them, the people here, lots of questions. And after about a year going to Mass and coming here, I became a Unitarian, and I decided to live by my conscience and not to do what's best personally for me, but for the whole entire consciousness thing. So that's how I do things now.
Can I put you on the spot, Pat? Because you used a phrase with me a couple weeks ago that the question box served, and that something about your conscience, and it is a harder thing.
Yeah. Because it's always fun to do things that you enjoy and go out and be entertained. But if you live by your conscience, you don't do that. You do what you feel is best for everything involved, yourself, your friends, family. And sometimes I don't do that, but I feel bad.
And that's your conscience, right?
I was I was brought up as a very strict atheist, and we weren't allowed to join Bluebirds or Girl Scouts because you had to have a religion. And I stepped into this church, and if they had said God at that time, I think I would have had to walk out. But my beliefs have so changed that now for me, there is something beyond. And it was not, being an atheist was that there was nothing else but you. And there's community, there's everything. I am an earthling, and so is the tree out there, so is the fly buzzing around. And it's all that is.
That's one of my favorite phrases, is about being, I'm an earthling. And I will get you next over there.
I was brought up as very strict Catholic and was a part of that religion until I went to Rome. And I was so sickened by the wealth and how they treated people that I said I would never be a Catholic again. And then I did nothing until I came here. And the one thing I love about this community, and I have a plaque now on my bookcase that says, open minds, open hearts. And that's what this brings to me, is just openness and love.
Thank you for that. Open minds, open hearts, and helping hands. I can't even remember it. And I'll get you next, Kim Diana.
So I grew up very strict Mormon, and it's been 10 years, and it took a long time to let go of a lot of guilt of not following the super strictness. And it wasn't until I finally let go of all that guilt that I could actually be more spiritual for me, and to find what spiritual means for me, and that maybe there is a God, maybe there's not, but that doesn't stop me from being a good person, because why do we need a God to tell us to be a good person? Because I think it doesn't matter anyway. And it's been a long journey and still going, but it has changed so much.
Yeah, great, thank you. Kim Diana, did I see your hand? Yeah.
So this is very confused thought, but it's important because it answers your question, which is I grew up raised in a family there was a Catholic dad and an Episcopal, so we went mostly to the Episcopal church, but mostly just on holidays. But I went to certain camps and stuff, and so one of the songs was "Where True Love Is, God Himself Is There." So it's like, and so I remember that song, and so in the past couple of years, as we've been discussing the changes to the UU bylaws and the concept of centering love, when I've been really thinking about it and thinking about how to take these new values and concretize them and actually act out them, and the stuff that's easy for me. I'm a lawyer and I do work on behalf of access to justice, so justice I can do and other things I can do, but like centering love. But I think back to that fundamental thing from when I was little, of God Himself is there. And of course, there's no Him, and I redefined God, but I still think the centering of that calls back to something which was authentic in my childhood and is renewed in the centering that happens in this community and in this larger faith.
Thank you. Is it the Ubi Caritas? Ubi Caritas et amor. That's in our chill hymnal, by the way. Sure. Well, and I walked around, so, you know.
And I don't know how this fits in with what everybody else has said. I guess there's a lot of disaffected Catholics here, right? And I was raised Catholic. I even taught religion. And I think that the Speaker of the House currently, what the heck's his name? Johnson, yeah. He said that if you want to understand me, read the front Bible from front to back. So since I was teaching religion, it was supposed to be about the New Testament, I figured I'd better read the Bible from front to back. And I don't know what he sees in it, but the main thing that I didn't like in the Bible is God presenting Himself as an angry God. And Sodom and Gomorrah, he destroys the cities, and what about the kids? Kids that didn't do anything wrong. So I guess that's it. I had to say something.
Okay. Thank you. Well, and that's sort of a regional thing, because the Catholic part, because the Buffalo area, it's a very Catholic community, right? Or it has been historically. Where I've lived other places, people were filling in the blank with other former traditions that no longer fit. And I don't think, and I'm going to speak from personal experience, I've often described my own faith journey as I did not wake up one morning and say, like a piece of clothing, well, this no longer fits. I'll just set it down. I might give it to somebody else. If changing your religion was that easy, I don't even know what the rest of that syllogism should be. But it's not, I'll just say it for me, it was a really difficult process. And I'm not at the end point. I've been on this journey of, I was going to say rebuilding, but that's not quite the words, of wider exploration, we'll go with that, for decades. And I don't anticipate that I'll ever wake up one morning and go, ta-da, thank goodness, or whomever, I am all put together now. I think being human, part of the awesomeness of being human, is that we have this curiosity gene. I just made that up, but it seems like it should be a true thing, that it's actually biological. And we want to know more. We want to experience more. And whether we can ever close the book on that exploration, gosh, I hope not. I really hope not. I so appreciate your vulnerability, your candor, your, for those who did not choose to speak, how you held the space. For those who spoke, I hope you felt as enveloped as I was perceiving the space. That this is the place where we can have these kinds of ideas and conversations and wonderings. And I really hope that your journey continues. And for some, that might mean you choose something else. And I'll be sad, but I'll also be kind of thrilled on your behalf, because the journey continues. But stay here, really, because we love you. All right, my pages are upside down. Oh, I had so many things about the best music, which is basically the soundtrack to Flashdance. If you're wondering where all the good music went, that's where it is. So differences can divide us, right? We talk about difference in this capacity as being a really positive or potentially positive thing. But currently in the world, difference is drawing lines, right? And dividing, and in some cases, literally dividing families. And not just in sort of the we can't have Thanksgiving dinner together anymore because we argue, but like seriously dividing families. So difference is hard. It's not all unicorns and lollipops. It's not even a little bit of that. So as we talk about celebrating difference in ourselves, in our understandings, in our relationships with ourselves, because we can have relationships with ourselves, I hope we do, with one another, with those outside our circle, with those way, way, way outside our circle. We need to figure out a way, as a human species, to get into that motion. And because I glanced over there and saw Kim Diane, I'm like, it's because the center needs to be love. If the center is love, then there's not room for anything else. But making the center be love? Stay tuned for next week. I won't talk about it then, but stay tuned for next week. Oh, goodness. As Unitarian Universalists, we draw from many sources, and we make room for ambiguity and for change. We know that we will change individually, collectively, and change can be really uncomfortable, and yet we endeavor to welcome it because we know that it matters what we believe. We cannot mouth words that are not true for us. Sometimes we get so focused on what pulls us apart when the true magic is in what keeps us together.